and that's why I don't use notes or scripts on this show ever. And sometimes you can hit a slow spot, like, shit, what am I going to say? You know, especially when a couple of years ago when I first started. But now there's always something to say, and I like the free flow of not having organized scripts and notes. I mean, I was listening to an interview on NPR the other day, Kelly, and it sounded so freaking rehearsed that I had to turn it off. And I know that they're sending the questions, you know, and getting them prepared. Yeah. And it's not open and free and moving like a river, you know. One thing about radio is you have to keep it moving. Are you there?
The other thing is, I'm here. I was just like moving my microphone around, so it's easier for me because I am in 200 square feet, and right now my chair is like the foot of my bed because I don't have anything to sit on. I love doing.
Go ahead. We're having a little bit of interference here, Kelly, so it's causing some delay. But you can go ahead. We're gonna have a little bit of delay here, so it'll be a little awkward, but that's all right. We can make.
I was going to say that.
Are you there, Kelly?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I. Well, that's why I put my head in.
Okay.
So that can happen, but I can hear you sort of breaking up.
Okay.
And I'm here.
It's probably my ISP. I'm wireless.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh no, are you there?
Oh, you can't hear me now?
Yeah.
Let me play the song. Let me play the.
Well, so am I. Okay.
Can you hear me now, Kelly?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so we're coming through still. I checked on the show. So what do you think it is? How do you feel about America today? Living in New York City, different kind of people there. I've had some experiences. I got some friends from there. Not many, but most of them are imports. They weren't born there. And what is it? It's a busy place. There's nobody ever sleeps. It's, relatively liberal.
I have to say, I do have to say this. I grew up in California. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and truth be told, California is really a very conservative state. It really is. But yet, I moved here to New York to go to attend the National Shakespeare Conservatory. And the first thing that struck me was how bigoted a place this city is.
Really?
And it's very, I heard, this is the first place I ever heard pejoratives for Poles. I mean, except for hearing it in Streetcar Named Desire, there were pejoratives I had never heard before. And this is the only city I've ever lived in where you're identified by your religious background. I mean, I would be out talking to somebody, and within 10 minutes of talking with that person, I'd know if they were Jewish, Catholic, Christian, or Protestant.
Wow, that's
because they mention it.
Yeah.
Yes, that's how they thin the herd out. Because then you feel sort of obligated to reveal your religious background.
Yeah.
You know.
I get that a lot. I have people tell me I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian or I'm a Muslim, and then I don't tell them that I'm agnostic because I don't see that as necessary. But there's an expectation they have.
That you will.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, it's how they. It's one of the ways that they thin out their herd of who they want to actually, deal with. Are you part of my group?
Yep.
And also the other thing is that growing up Jewish in California, I never saw Jews that looked like or sounded like me on television.
Yeah.
They were all New York Jews.
I see. Okay. Now, are you a practicing Jew?
And they were all Ashkenaz Jews, and I'm Sephardic. And now I gave up practicing because I was so bad at it.
One of my best friends out of Nevada is a Christian convert to Judaism, which is highly unusual. So what else?
And he's a real Jewish person. He's a real Jewish convert and not a Jew for Jesus.
Well, it's a she, but yeah, she's a no, she does. I don't think she buys into the Jesus thing. I think she's full.
Good, because they're not considered. Jews don't consider them Jewish because of the Jesus thing.
Yeah.
But since when I'm here, it's like I wasn't considered a Jew because I don't speak Yiddish. I'm a Reformed Jew, which to the Orthodox here, I might as well be wearing a cross. Now I have to preface this by saying that this is why I'm saying California is a nice conservative state. Growing up in California, I was actually physically assaulted by classmates, both on and off campus, for being Jewish. I was called Christ Killer in 6th grade. Okay? Now, that puts the light, yeah. And then I was stage managing a show at the Fulton Yiddish Theater here in New York, which is one of the last surviving Yiddish theaters in the United States.
Mm-hmm. Is it still doing well? Is it on its way out?
Great actress came out of it. No, it's still going. Yiddish theater is still going here in New York. It's amazing.
Good.
And I was talking with the tech director and another member of the company, and I was explaining something to our Italian Anglican tech director about Judaism, and the company member looked at me and called me a Christian, and then couldn't understand why. I got pissed off and burst into tears.
Oh, Jesus.
And he was apparently joking.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's not really funny.
And I guess he was thinking it was funny because calling me a Christian because I don't speak Yiddish, and I'm not an Orthodox Jew, and I don't keep kosher.
Holy cow!
Okay, so this is all. Yeah, so
you must really stand out there because you don't have a commitment to a specific religion or group that you've.
Well, I do consider myself Jewish but I realize there is more. But I am of the bent that there is more to it than just the outward manifestations. I'm a firm believer in Tikkun Olam, which is healing the world, doing good. Mm-hmm. And I am more a believer in Maimonides' ladder of righteous giving, which is called tzedakah, and now because it's easier for people to call it charity. Charity is on the low is one are the lowest rungs of his ladder, because everybody begins to resent it, including the people that are helping and the people that are being helped. The highest rung on Maimonides' ladder is helping somebody, stand for themselves. You give them a job, or if you can, you help them open a business. You give them the highest form of giving is giving somebody their self-respect.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're talking about a teach a man to fish kind of concept. Yeah,
but Maimonides, this was like Maimonides who created this ladder of giving, from what the top rung is down to the bottom rung. And he goes down to say the first thing is, help this man, help them open a business. If you can't do that, give them a job. If you can't do that, you do this. If that hasn't worked, this. And then the final two things are just giving them money without expecting anything from them. And the reason they're the lowest, again, is because you eventually come to resent it. Both if you are the giver and you are the receiver.
Right. Absolutely. I believe that too. I've narrowed my living philosophy down to two things, and I wrote them on a piece of paper and put it on my wall a couple of weeks ago. And it is help people, period. Seek peace of mind, period. And those are very broad avenues, but opening a business is not that hard. I've done it a couple of times, once a success and once a failure, and you can always do contractor work. I mean, my whole trade for the past 20 years or so, even though I'm sure, were you a theater major, English major?
Yeah, I was theater major, highly, useful degree, liberal arts. Liberal arts major, yeah. I can speak I can swear in Elizabethan, can you?
Oh my God. Thanks, Paul. I've got Paul in the chat room. Everybody welcome Kelly. Kelly is our resident Jew on the show, who is not afraid to tell you who she is. She's 5 foot tall, and that means I can already tell you she's a scrapper. And she's educated. You can just smell the education. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
She's hissing at you.
Well, okay. Then if you can smell it, I need to take another shower.
And we got to have Ramzy on later, which is my one true connection to the Arab world that can tell me, you know, you may have heard, I don't know, Kelly, I'm sure you're busy. I mean, we all are. We don't have time to listen to old episodes of shows, but there's an old show that I did with Ramzy and his cousin, and also Ten Fish, one of his friends. And,
I know Ten Fish, he's awesome.
Yeah. And well, he's different to me. I had him on the show alone one time, and one thing about radio is, and you know this, theater, anything that's a public presentation, gotta keep it moving. Especially with radio, you gotta keep it moving. You know, because I've heard people get real slow, or like for example on Spreaker, they'll look in the chat room and they'll say, "Oh yeah, you're right." Well, the listener doesn't know what that means. They're not looking at the chat necessarily. So, and this show that I do on Spreaker goes up to iHeartRadio, and they have no idea what happened in the chat. So you have to qualify everything by saying, here's what, for example, Paul Dembski in the chat just said, "Hi, Kelly." So he's saying hello to you.
Hi, Paul.
Yeah, he's a guy that came out of, you know, I was accused of some pretty ugly things recently here, and I don't want to stay on this long at all because this is a comedy show, but he came out of the woodwork, and he didn't really defend me as much as present.
You can make comedy out of anything.
Well, that's true, and this certainly was a tragedy. It involved my divorce 13 years ago. I fought for custody of my young daughter. I lost. I took it to the Supreme Court. I lost again. And people don't understand that what a Supreme Court does, very summarized here, is essentially they have to tell the family court whether or not they were wrong. If they tell the family court that they were wrong, the justice system in that state becomes kind of a joke, because what you're saying is, hey, small county over here, you don't know what you're doing. So you're automatically at the likelihood that the Supreme Court will not overturn a decision. That's what happens most of the time. But then they have to justify it. In a family court case where there's no, you know, criminal evidence or anything, what they'll do is just regurgitate whatever the person said that favors the original decision. It's that simple. So a lot of people don't understand that, and I don't expect them to. On this network, Kelly, there are groups, just like you were talking about earlier, and I'm telling you that the group mentality, the groupthink mentality, is powerful here. You have younger people coming on being looked to be told what to think, pretty much. And you have people who are scared, so your conspiracy theorists, they're coming on, they're looking for something to fill the fear hole. And then you have reasonable people who get involved with the news, who don't have a lot of hate in their hearts.
Far between, yes.
Yeah, the in-betweens. I mean, and those are the people I try to talk to. My show is directed basically at education. In other words, we try to talk about stuff that can make us all a little smarter, but when we don't do that, we do comedy. So those are the only two things I do, and I don't know comedy. I can't do comedy. I suck at comedy, so I have to find people that are funny to bring on the show to do the comedy segments. And I don't mind that at all.
My question to you is that you probably do know, you probably do know comedy, you're just not consciously aware of. You said you like shows like Whose Line Is It Anyway? Do you like shows that, Last Week Tonight?
I have not seen
The Daily Show, Colbert Report.
I have seen The Daily Show. I love it.
Oh my God, you haven't seen Last Week Tonight? Oh my God. I am so old, ladies and yes, I am so old, ladies and gentlemen. I remember the grandfather, the progenitor of all the television news parody shows, satire shows. And it was an imported show from England called That Was the Week That Was. It was on NBC. It introduced David Frost to Americans. And that show was a weekly show, and they did satirical recaps of the news.
Yeah. So, I didn't know that. I've never seen that show. I used to watch Keeping Up Appearances.
And you will never see That Was the Week That Was, because NBC didn't think of, because at that time they reused tape, and there's no archival tape. The tapes are all gone. There's no archival footage of That Was the Week That Was, of that show. Simply because at the time, the network didn't think anything, now that'll save these shows. There may be scripts lying around.
Do you like to watch modern comedies like Big Bang Theory and stuff like that?
Yeah, I like well-written comedies. So even if it's something really dumb, broad, Broad comedy, if it's well written, I will